Welcome to the Let's Stay Healthy radio show, sponsored and brought to you by Montana Harvest Natural Food Store in Billings, Montana. If you don't spend time on your wellness, you're going to be forced to spend time on your illness. Your health is your most valuable asset. Invest in it by tuning in now.
Welcome everybody to Let's Stay Healthy. Michael right here with you from Montana Harvest. I'm here with Kimmy Oliver from Montana Harvest owner. And we have a special guest on with us today, Ronda Holman, the Airway champion. She's going to be taking us on an Airway journey. So we're really excited and we know we're going to have lots of fun. Kimmy?
Yeah, thank you for joining us. We actually heard you on a podcast with Dr. Garrett Smith. And so I was super excited. Ended up buying one of the products that you were recommending. And so maybe you can start out with a little bit about yourself. You're in Montana, by the way.
I am. I'm a fellow Montakian.
So maybe you can give us a little bit of background information and why you are considered the Airway champion.
Thank you, Kimmy, for having me. I love everything that you guys are doing as far as bringing the knowledge to the people that truly need to hear it. You know, we live in a time now where access to information is at our fingertips, but it's like a blessing and a curse because there's so much knowledge, so many different experts telling you this is right and this is wrong and you have to do this and you can't do that. And people just get this fatigue from information overload. So having people like you in the health space are saying, hey, listen, this is what you should focus on, maybe not this so much. And let's get to the root cause of dishealth, you know, because there's so many people out there that are peddling Band-Aids, but not really talking about what went wrong so that you could reverse engineer it, which is truly how you heal, right? So I'm a 27-year-old dental assistant. I am originally from Virginia, and I spent my entire career working on mouth breathers. I didn't know that's what it was at the time until I started going to some continued education where I realized that, you know, half the people that were in my chair getting these dental needs met were their mouths were falling apart, not because of poor diet or poor hygiene. It was poor function. And so rabbit hole, right? We became this dentist that helps people breathe better while they sleep. It turns out, you know, half of the reason that, you know, your mouth is falling apart is because you're struggling to get air in and out of your body at night. So a lot of times it looks like clenching and grinding and people are opening their mouths and they're breathing through their mouths. And if you know anything about the oral microbiome is it can't stay healthy if it's dry. It's like sleeping with your eyes open. It is very, very bad for prolonged use. Like in the interim, like let's say you needed an emergency escape valve, right? You'd use your mouth. There's a backup. But what happens is a lot of people, because they have poor muscle tone in their head, neck, and face, they are opening their mouths to breathe while they sleep through the mouth. A lot of times we always thought that the reason that they were breathing through their mouth is because their nose was obstructed, right? There was something that was preventing them from breathing through the two small holes. So they had to revert to the big hole that you put food in. And that's not the case in a lot of situations. It's habitual. And so my whole passion in life is to help people get air in and out of their body easier so that they can breathe better and sleep better.
Do you think that this is a problem with individuals that weren't breastfed as infants?
So if you ask me what the root cause of sleep disordered breathing in particular is, it's food. It always comes back to food. So yes, breastfeeding, in utero, we're seeing tongue ties, right? So there's something we're missing in either with the folic acid issue with the prenatals and they're malnourished moms that, you know, they're not getting proper education on how to be ready to be pregnant. We get them once they're pregnant and we start educating them. But there's a lot that goes up to having a healthy human. So we're looking at nutrition as a pregnant mother. We're looking at how the baby feeds. Are they breastfeeding, which is myofunctional therapy. If you guys don't know what that is, it is exercises of the head, neck, and face to maintain a strong patent upper airway. And so breastfeeding is Mother Nature's myofunctional therapy. It trains the tongue to swallow properly and to stay strong, and it makes the face grow forward. And then, we jump into like these pureed foods. I mean, you can see the prevalence of braces get way worse in the last couple of decades, especially after Gerber showed up and we went away from baby-led weaning and we were doing, all these mushy foods. And then you give your baby a pacifier and that trains the tongue to work the wrong way. Like, and then all these forces on this, squishy skull. They're babies, they're forming. So it doesn't take much to go from, optimal upper airway health development to what happened. Why can't the teeth fit in the face? Why can't your child breathe at night? And you think about like the breed of pugs, is it pugs? Where they, they're banning certain breeders from doing like this crossbreeding because these animals can't breathe. Their faces are so short. Their snouts are so small that they are, a life of misery. Like they're constantly trying to get air in and out of their body. So in a way, I mean, I don't think we'll ever get that bad, especially now, especially people like us that are talking about, the cause so we can reverse engineer it. Maybe the next generation or the one after that will start chewing again and stimulating the bones of the face to grow. And then figuring out why our kids have such snotty nose. Like the smallest version of humans should be the healthiest. They haven't been here that long. They haven't smoked a pack of cigarettes a day. They haven't drank copious amounts of alcohol or done drugs. Like they're supposed to be healthy humans. They're brand new. And there's something that we're missing in the environment, which is, I mean, at the end of the day, most people have upper airway disorders because of epigenetics, right? It's lifestyle induced. It's not, everybody's like, oh, it's genetic. Our brains are getting bigger, so our mouths have to get smaller. I'm like, what kind of logic is that? Why would evolution do that to us? Why would it make us get less healthy? Like we evolve to like endure more things with our species. We're supposed to be stronger and more resilient. And so, yeah, chewing stimulates the bone to grow. There's a reason, this sugar, they're putting sugar in the baby formula. Like we're getting all of these environmental hits that are causing all this excess inflammation and mucus in the nose. And then of course the baby's going to have to breathe through their mouth because they can't get nose air. Again, we want to survive. And I guess before we end this, it's important to know that sleep disordered breathing and improper breathing patterns will not kill you. What it will do is it will take away your quality of life. And so, yes, you could survive mouth breathing. I did. I survived it for 37 years, but what we do know is if it develops, because it's a spectrum, if it goes from I can hear you breathing when you're sitting there to you're not breathing while you sleep, you're apneic, that will take 7 to 10 years of your life off. By being undiagnosed and untreated apneic, you are losing years off of your life. And so depending on where you fall on that spectrum and how long you've been there, and if you're really not looking at changing the way you breathe while you sleep, just be prepared to lose quality of life.
Well, give us some examples of how you should breathe while you're sleeping.
Absolutely. A healthy human breathing is slow and silent through the nose. There should be no audible breathing. So what a lot of people don't realize is audible breathing, especially when you're not using your body, you're laying there. You're not going up a flight of stairs. You're not swimming 10 laps. You're just laying there. If I can hear you breathe, that means that your body is having effort trying to get air in and out of it. And that effort is going to keep you from getting those deeper restorative phases of sleep. Like it's really hard to get the proper amount of deep and REM sleep if your body's trying to keep you alive and it constantly thinks that you're in this stress. Like for an example, if I'm really upset, right? Let's say I'm just in a car crash. I realize that people that I love are injured. And what is my breathing going to be? It's going to be rapid, right? It's going to be shallow because that's what you do when you're stressed is you overbreathe. So your body is stressed when you can hear the breathing while you sleep. So slow and silent through your nose would be the goal so that you can stay in that rest and digest and get the restorative phases of sleep that you really need to stay healthy.
Well, let me ask you this. What about like when you're working and then also like maybe you go to the gym or something and maybe when you come home and relax. I mean, so there's like all types of breathing from what I'm hearing you talk about.
Yeah. So part of my goal is to help people learn to breathe for their metabolic need. So again, my purpose is to help people breathe better while they sleep. I even wrote the book, right? Because I know that that's where I can get the most gains. If I can get you breathing better 8 hours a day versus, 2 hours a day or 30 minutes where the traditional breath work is. But when I'm cardio, right? If I'm elevating my heart rate and I want more oxygen to end up in my muscles and I'm mouth breathing, I'm offloading that CO2. CO2 is the ability for the body to transport the oxygen. So if I'm mouth breathing just because I've elevated my heart rate, I am actually stressing my body out more. And there's a website called Oxygen Advantage. I'm actually going to be on his podcast soon, but it's Patrick McCowan. He wrote the book, The Breathing Cure. And all of it is about how to regulate your CO2, how to do more with less air so that you don't dehydrate yourself. Because the amount of dehydration you do when you breathe through your food hole is ridiculous. Like if you want to know why you have to drink so much water and you're still dehydrated, it's because you're exhaling all of that water. It's not your mouth has no breathing purpose whatsoever. It has taste buds and tissue and saliva and teeth and it's soft palate, hard palate. There's nothing in your mouth that filters the air, that humidifies it, that warms it, that slows it down, that gets it ready for your lungs. Like it does nothing. And so it can be taught. So there's going to be certain situations where you'll have to learn to offload some of the excess CO2 when you're doing high endurance. But most of us aren't working out 8 hours a day. Like I have a better chance of teaching you how to breathe slow and silent through your nose when you're driving your car, when you're checking your email, when you're sleeping. When you're doing low impact stuff, right? You're changing the laundry out, you're doing some dishes. These are the parts, because I think it's the majority of what you do, right? We look at health and we say, oh, well, you got to do this X amount of time and this X amount of, I want to reset your baseline so that you can be a healthier human when you're not doing all these other things that will cause you to want to breathe more and faster and shallow.
Well, and obviously we can't live without air, and oxygen is critical to one's health and being oxygenating throughout the body. I mean, we know sicknesses and diseases thrive in an anaerobic environment and they cannot survive in an aerobic environment, meaning oxygenated. So getting the proper oxygen and breathing properly, this is critical. So it's so exciting to have you on to discuss this, because this isn't something that a lot of individuals think about in the health world, in the health industry. This is the first time we've talked about breathing exercises, but not to this degree.
Yeah. So, okay, if I said, everybody's going to breathe different, right? We're different ages, we have different environments, we're at different altitudes, we have different body types, right? So my lungs might not be as big as other people's lungs. But at the end of the day, like if you follow those same rules on a habitual basis, right? You make your exhale longer than your inhale. You always make sure it goes through your nose because that's where nasal nitric oxide is produced. It's on the nasal exhale. And nasal nitric oxide is a vasodilator. So if I get that vasodilation into my body without having to eat a beat, like I'm much more, I'm going to have much more prevalence with having that healthy aspect to my life, right? And then again, your mouth is meant to stay wet. Okay. I'm sacrificing my mouth right now just by talking, right? So I've lost something. In order to communicate, I have to sacrifice some of my saliva. But that's okay, because I have everything in moderation, right? A mute or monk. So I'm just going to keep talking, but I'm going to also make sure there's a space between my breath. Like I shouldn't jump right back into another breath. Like if I'm going to breathe from my metabolic need, there's no reason for me to run right into the next breath. If for some reason my nose is clogged, okay, whether it's due to inflammation or mucus, I'm going to do everything in my power to get it open. If that means I have to try all the things and then see an otolaryngologist, I'll do it. If I need to get, 80% of us is estimated to have a deviated septum. So if you want to say, oh, I have a deviated septum, I can't nose breathe, bull hockey. It's too prevalent for us to say that is a determining factor, whether or not you can be a functional breather. So that means like looking at the food, fasting. I love intermittent fasting. I have so many clients and I'm like, listen, once you get metabolically healthy enough to do this, like give me 24 to 48 hours. I want you to see what it's like to be able to breathe through a nose that hasn't been fed. because just the act of eating is an inflammatory response. You know, it's amazing what you can do when you actually reduce the amount of inflammation in the sinuses, in the nose, and you feel like you get like so much more air, because that's the number one concern we get anytime we habituate nasal breathing. I'm not getting enough air. I feel like I'm suffocating. And so, yes, it's a use it or lose it organ. So all those tissues in there, they're inflamed. You know, you're not using the nose properly. You're not getting that nasal nitric oxide. And so there is a bit of a learning curve, and it takes time. And I always tell people, I'm like, if you really want to change the way you breathe while you sleep, you have to change it while you're awake. You can't run around holding your breath and sighing through your mouth all day and expect your breathing to be slow and silent while you sleep. It's rhythmic. You can't. You have to do a full 180.
And what are some techniques that you recommend to people starting out?
Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of exercises with Buteyko. It's called Buteyko. There's free apps you can use where they walk you through it. All it's trying to do is help you slow down the breath, get it deeper into the lungs, and do more with it, right? And improve your CO2 tolerance. Because what happens is if you have a low CO2 tolerance, right? And I'm asking you to hold your exhale, you're going to want to jump right into that next breath because you can't stand it. Your body does not have a tolerance to it. So the more you build up your CO2 tolerance, the more you can slow down your breathing. I really like Buteyko. There's lots of different exercises, but at the end of the day, they're all about habituation of nasal breathing, getting acclimated to having the air come in and out of your nose, and resetting that breathing pattern. A lot of people hum. You guys, it's free. And I know it's hard to think that something that's free works, but it does. Our ancestors hummed all the time. They chanted. They did all these things that kept them healthy and breathing slow while they slept. So I'm a big fan. If you're going to shower every day in a nice, warm, steamy shower, take advantage of it. Hum while you're in there. In through your nose, out through your nose. Take the moisture from that air. Let it help you debride the nose, right? Help you release that excess mucus and reduce the inflammation, and extend your nasal exhale. That's what humming does, is it's in building your tolerance to CO2. And it can be fun. Like you could hum a tune. There's lots of things that you can do when you're walking, you know, at a moderate pace. Just make sure your tongue is up, your lips are closed, and you're breathing through your nose. You know, when I first started this, in Buteyko, they teach you how to run with nasal breathing. And because I was still eating inflammatory foods, I was having alcohol, and I was doing all the things wrong, right? Still tons of sugar. And I was like taking piles of tissues with me, because your body starts to detox the minute you use it right. And I'm running, and like everything, my whole face is just falling out. There's so much snot. But that doesn't happen anymore. You know, I changed my diet, changed my lifestyle. I used it so I didn't lose it. And now I can work out at a moderate level. I get to level, what is it, 2? Is that what they call it? Like cardio 2. And I don't have to breathe through my mouth. It just took time.
Wow, that's impressive.
Let me ask you this, how you're talking about the metabolic changes that when you're breathing right. So give us some examples of like what type of metabolic things are going on. What are you improving? Like your heart rate, your lungs, I mean, is it,
you know, all
burning fat?
Yeah, so metabolic, so this is my favorite one, right? People don't realize that you lose weight through your breath. It's not from your sweat, it's not from feces, it's from your breath. So if you're a more efficient breather, you're going to naturally burn fat more effectively, right? So people start to breathe better, and they're like, why am I losing weight? It's like, well, you're utilizing the systems properly. And then not to mention, you know, we're just talking about the breath. We haven't even talked about the tongue. And that's really the driver for the breath. If your tongue is not where it's supposed to be, you can mouth breathe. If your tongue is gently suctioned to the roof of your mouth from the tip to the back, you can't mouth breathe. So it really dictates whether or not you're going to be a dysfunctional breather. And that tongue being on that palate, it's stimulating the vagus nerve, and it's getting us into that rest and digest. It's helping regulate all these systems. Breathing for your metabolic need looks like, again, not stressing the body out. Like if I'm not using my body, there's no reason. I love James Nestor. He wrote the book Breath. I don't know if you guys read it. It came out around COVID. It's the yellow one. But it is amazing, because one of his things that he says is like, breathing is the pillar to health. You know, like you can do all the things. You can do all this supplements and all these regimens and protocols and detox and get rid of the worms, and none of it matters if you can't breathe right. If you're not, the one thing is function, right? There's three things to human life: breathing, water, food. It's always in that order. If I give you a plate of food, but I can't let you breathe, what does it matter? If I give you all the water in the world, but you can't breathe, it doesn't matter. So we're bypassing the most important part of the body, and doing it the wrong way will make you sick. And the metabolic need part of it is keeping that body in this stage of like, I'm only going to use what I need. So he says that if I'm at a stoplight, over breathing, which is what they call, not breathing through your nose, slow and silent when you're not using your body, is kind of like putting your foot on the brake and the gas pedal at the same time. Like, why is your foot on the gas? You're at a stoplight. Stop it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just the whole complex, right? The fascia, the muscles, the fluids. We're just a big meat suit full of tubes. And so, yeah, this learning how to regulate the system is huge. And it's so easy and free.
Do you find that there's devices that helped you become more of a proper breather instead of just doing different exercises?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say breathing devices per se. Like, there was one I tried. It was like this little thing you put in your mouth, and it was a regulator, right? So you could make it resistant or less resistant. And I didn't like that because I was still mouth breathing. I was like, I might be expanding the nasopharynx, but like, I don't like that it's going out of my mouth. I'm like, okay, remember, Rhonda, at the end of the day, what matters is breathing slow and silent through my nose when I'm not using my body. So that alone is exercise. But here's the deal. Remember, I go back to the tongue. The tongue is what's causing the mouth breathing or preventing it. Because if your tongue is suctioned, if you guys can try it, if your tongue is suctioned to the roof of your mouth and your mouth is open, you cannot get air past it. So a lot of people, and it goes back to the food, right? And the breastfeeding and, all the things that we're maybe baby-led weaning, we're not doing right in childhood. That tongue drops down. The swallow becomes improper. And then, it's so much easier to breathe through my mouth if my tongue is weak and is not staying on the palate. And so for that, especially while you're sleeping, because it's one thing for me to be upright and awake talking to you and got to put my tongue up. I don't want to breathe through my mouth by accident. I don't need it. But then you go to sleep. And especially when you hit REM sleep, you guys know this. That's where you dream, right? So everything except for your lungs and your heart, they keep going normal. But everything else gets relaxed, right? Because they don't want you acting out your dreams. Well, what happens is the upper airway, if it's already weak because your tongue doesn't work right, more likely to have upper airway collapse. And that's when people become apneic. They can't get air in and out of their body. Or they snore so loud, trying, all the effort it takes to get air in and out through a smaller hole because they're trying to get to those restorative phases of sleep, but they can't. And so I'll have people that I haven't dreamt in like 5-10 years, or they'll say, I get up more than twice a night to use the bathroom, or I get up every morning between like 3 and 5 and, I can't sleep, or I wake up tired, or my head hurts when I wake up, or I clench and grind my teeth. I always have a Sahara desert in my mouth. I'm like, that sounds like you can't breathe at night. So let's make your upper airway stronger and then work on your breathing patterns while you're awake. And then you can breathe better while you sleep.
That's awesome. And it's so simple and free to use. I mean, it's your nose.
So everybody's like, okay, well, what can I buy? Even use products. Because we're like that, right? We're conditioned to think that if there's not a solution for me to purchase, is it really a problem? And so luckily the market responded and said, okay, you clearly want tools, so let's make it happen. If I was going to spend my money on tools, I would give you like my top 5. Do you guys? Okay. So number 1 is the Replenish Myo-Nozzle. So this is a nozzle that is a workout tool for your tongue, especially the back of the tongue, because that's the part that's supposed to hold up your soft palate so that the patent airway stays open while you sleep, right? This is almost, I tell people, it's like drinking a really thick milkshake through a really small straw. And so if you know what that burn feels like in the back of your tongue, that's what this stimulates and gives you, that workout. And it's water. So, it's at least you're to drink it anyways, you might as well make it a workout. Next up, because this can be maladaptive by nature, because it's basically breastfeeding because the human nipple gets long and flat. I would recommend a froggy mouth. So sometimes you can get this direct to consumer. Sometimes you have to go through an orofacial myofunctional therapist or speech language pathologist. But what it does, it's a neurological appliance, and you put it, it keeps your lips apart, you guys. It makes you swallow the right way. And you're supposed to use this while you're like on a screen or reading, to where you're basically developing those neural pathways so that you can repattern your swallow, so that one day you don't have to think about it. It'll just reset itself. So this is a really good tool to use in conjunction with that. I really like the Myo Munchie. It's a bilateral mastication appliance. And what it does is it exercises all the upper airway muscles. So like half of the problem that we have an upper airway muscle fatigue, right? Or atrophy, is disuse. We started processing the food, everything's squishy. It doesn't take a lot of work to eat food nowadays. We don't hum and chant the way we once did. And we're just not chewing, right, to keep those muscles strong. And that's what the Myo Munchie does, is it makes your lips strong, because you have to like use your lips to close around this little stick. You're chewing up and down for 15 minutes a day, and it actually helps you. It doesn't really retrain your swallowing pattern, but it does help you learn not to use the front of your face to propel liquid down your throat, and instead use your tongue. And the more you use your tongue, the stronger it gets, which is, I think, really important for people to understand. And then we've got the beauty balloon. So this was developed by a pathologist. So like all of us are looking at this, you guys. We're all like, okay, where's my piece? Like, how does, dysfunctional breathing affect my specific portion of medicine? Luckily, I mean, I think dentistry, we are the gatekeepers of the airway. Like, we can see the damage before you go to your physician and get that diagnosis of sleep apnea. We can see it happening in real time while your tongue, after the age of 30, we lose 3 to 5% of our muscle tone every decade. So we can see these people just suffocating more and more each decade. It's fascinating. And that gives us the power to at least, hey, your mouth is falling apart. There's a good chance you suffocate at night. At least find out. If you're not willing to do anything about it, find out what's happening to your breathing when you sleep. Even if that's just wearing a sleep tracker, just find your oxygen saturation. Because if you know that you dip below 95% every night, you are starving your brain and body of oxygen. And if I knew that was happening to me, like, it's one thing to put my head in the sand, but to know that I'm suffocating at night, like, I would do something during the day to change the way I breathe at night. But this is it's a great workout tool for your tongue and lips. They call it the neck up lip strengthening system. All of these, again, you could do regular exercises, right? They go to a myofunctional therapist. They'll say, oh, this muscle set is weak and this one's strong, so let's do exercises like this. And they're mostly resistance training using your body parts. It's really not hard. I tell people all the time, I'm like, learning these exercises, you can go on YouTube. They're not hard to learn. The hard part is implementing them and being consistent and working out twice a day. I mean, it's one thing to change your clothes and go to the gym and have a trainer there, but it's another thing to be like, I'm in my car, I should do some tongue workouts, because if I make my tongue stronger, it can stay up while I sleep, making it easier to get air in and out of that tube. Because right behind your tongue is your airway. And if it collapses, I mean, that's the suffocation part. And I think it's prudent for me to tell you that because we do talk about apnea, again, sleep disorder breathing is on a spectrum, right? Like, you could go from just slightly audible purring to really big snores to not breathing. But there are 2 different types of sleep apnea. And if it ever gets to that point for you, it would be, you have to understand, is it neurological or is it your body parts choking you? So one is obstructive, which is your body parts choking you. And then the central sleep apnea is neurological, like something's misfiring in the brain and it's not telling your body to take another breath. So I think it's really important, because you could do all the exercises for your tongue. You could do the breathing exercises to slow down your nasal breath. But if it's a neurological problem, you won't change the way you breathe while you sleep. So I think it's really, those sleep tests, you guys, they're getting so accurate. Go to your physician, go to your airway dentist and say, hey, or ENTs, there's lots of people doing it now, and just find out, because it'll tell you in that test if this is a neurological problem or a body part problem. I mean, I guess either way, it's a body part problem, but is it something, am I suffocating on my own body parts, or do I need to work? And Dr. Stasha Gomanak, she's in Texas. She's a neurologist. She's doing great work, understanding like acetylcholine and vitamin B's and D's deficiencies and trying to figure out why these signals aren't firing properly. And then, you know what? I'm not opposed to traditional sleep breathing apparatuses, like improvements, right? I would love for you to change your breathing pattern and make your upper airway stronger and work on your sleep hygiene and just like hit it root cause. But I got to meet people where they're at, right? Like I know everybody doesn't want to put in the amount of work that I did to stop snoring, but you could look at an oral sleep appliance, right? It keeps your mandible forward, holds your tongue up and out of your airway. You could look at a CPAP, right? Just something it's an air splint. It pushes air in and out of your, and down your hole so that you don't suffocate on your own body parts. I just want, and there's even people putting tongue stimulators in now. And, it's mixed reviews, but I had this one lady, she got one in New York, and her concept was, oh, I got this tongue stimulator, because what the stimulator does is it's like a little catheter that goes up your neck into your tongue, and it has a monitor in your chest. And so when it notices that you're desaturated in oxygen, it'll send a little electrical signal up to the tongue, stimulate it up and out of the airway. But for her, the signal, when they would turn on, just when the appliance would turn on to stimulate the tongue, it woke her up. So it was this, like, she was going to wake up because she suffocated, but she woke up because of the electrical stimulation in her tongue. So they're trying to help the people that don't want to help themselves. And I won't ever, anybody who's trying to help themselves breathe better at night is doing the right job, regardless of what modality that ends up being for you. I just don't want people to put their head in the sand and think that snoring is normal and that it's just easier to separate bedrooms from your spouse because you snore so loud than actually go to the doctor and find out what's causing it.
Well, and excuse me, I've heard reviews on different techniques and exercises like Jawzrsize, like a device that's patented formula, and you work on chewing on this device to strengthen the jaw muscles and your breathing. And one of the guys that promoted his device, that is a patented one, the Jawzrsize, he's like, I didn't go into this industry to save marriages, but that's what it's doing. Is because, there was a couple, they had to split up into sleep in different rooms because one was snoring too much. And then when they started using this device, they were able to sleep in the same room again.
So, yeah, I mean, it does save marriages when somebody doesn't suffocate at night.
Yeah.
It saves the person from dying prematurely,
Yes.
and it's the other person from killing them early because they can't sleep at night because they're so loud.
Yeah.
But, it's funny. A lot of times I'll see couples where both of them are afflicted. Females present typically in a different way, right? We're not like, we don't have the same symptoms as men do when it comes to sleep disordered breathing. A lot of times we have what's called as upper airway resistance. So it's not so much the snoring part of it. It's just like our body keeps us in light sleep because we're so efficient. But it takes so much effort to keep our airway open and patent so that our body doesn't feel that stress or desire to breathe hard and fast. And sometimes that's just as detrimental as the asphyxiation part is staying in light sleep, a majority of our life. But what'll happen is the husband, his upper airway collapses and she can't stand it because she hears him snoring. She gets used to the snoring and then she stops hearing him snore. And because she's not sleeping well, she's in hyper alert state all night. She's listening to them like, oh my God, now is he going to breathe again? Like, and so there's so many different spectrums and aspects of this thing. It's crazy.
Well, I have to share something about the Replenish straw because that was something I got my husband. It was something he wanted for Christmas. And we have a 2-year-old and she's still breastfeeding, but that is her favorite cup or bottle. I mean, she's always stealing his water bottle. And I think it's because it mimics breastfeeding. So she knows how to use it.
Yep, it does. It absolutely, it's funny because I don't have them with me, but I was going to do like a video on pacifiers. And, it's just not normal. Like the human nipple, it is long and flat and has tons of holes in it. And yet they try to give these babies these pacifiers that are like stiff and circular and not very long. And it's just really like, of course we're screwing things up. Like, why are we trying to mimic nature in the first place when we have typically breast available. My friend, she grew up in Palau on an island. And because we're not tribal anymore like we once were, but she grew up in a tribe. And so if her mother couldn't lactate, they had a milk nurse. And so the young mothers would go out and collect the food, and the kids would stay in like a little hut, and they'd all get breastfed by the same two ladies. It's sad. We've lost a lot of things. We gained a lot, but we've lost a lot too.
Well, yeah, and that's part of the developmental part of your mouth and your jaw. And if you're not being breastfed, then you lose those exercises, which can lead to this.
Yep.
And so, yeah, my husband heard your podcast on Dr. Garrett Smith. And so he knew he was bottle fed as a baby. And so he got the Replenish straw. And so he's learning to strengthen those muscles again.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a meeting with the founder, and it was he was like sitting in his parents' living room, and the dog had a toy with peanut butter in it. And it was like he had to like wind his tongue through these little holes to get the peanut butter out. He's like, wow, that dog's working out and doesn't even care. He's having fun. He's getting the peanut butter out of his toy. I'm like, I can do that for humans. But with water.
Yeah, that's amazing.
The thing is with the Replenish, you have to use it. Like it's 30 to 60 ounces for it to be clinically relevant. They have a trial right now in the Mayo Clinic, but a lot of people, it's like anything else. They'll be like, oh, new shiny thing. Let me buy it. I used it for a week. It was a lot of work. Like it took forever to get the water out. Blah. And they put it to the side. I'm like, no, that's the workout. You got to power through and use it every day. Otherwise it doesn't work. We're activating these atrophied tongue muscles that have never been activated, and it's going to take a while to get used to it. My recommendation is if you're going to use the Replenish myonozzle to breathe better while you sleep by isolating the muscles in the back of the tongue so they can hold your soft palate up at night, is if you're really thirsty or dehydrated, just take the lid off and drink it in an open rim form, because that's the number one thing. I didn't use it anymore because I only have like 5 minutes between patients to take a sip of water, and I don't have time to work out. So yeah, it works if you use it, for sure, for majority people. Like I've only seen a couple people that use it wrong for so long that they hurt their jaws, the TMJ issue, but that's few and far between. Because I think it's important to know that the more you use it, the easier it is to use it. A lot of people are like, I'm using it wrong. I'm like, yeah, you probably are, because you're using compensatory facial muscles because your tongue is so weak. But the more you use it, the easier it is to use, kind of like the nose. The more you use it, the better it works.
How do you feel about the magnetic expanders for your nasal cavity?
I love them. So remember, the name of my game is how do I help you get air in and out of your body as easy as possible? Like, because that's what ruins your sleep is the effort to breathe. And so I love their intake. They comes in a 4-pack, and they're little stickers you put on the side of your nostrils. And they, you can find out, okay, everybody's nose is a different shape, right? And a lot of this is nasal valve collapse. So it's a collagen issue. But, in the meantime, if you're working on the collagen precursor foods, how do I keep these valves open at night? And the dilator does so much more than like a strip, because a strip prevents collapse, but it doesn't really make your nose bigger for air to get in and out of it easier. But the intake ones I love, because it makes the holes bigger. So the people that say, I don't feel like I'm getting enough air through my nose, maybe that's part of your problem. You have nasal valve collapse and you're not physically getting enough air through your nose. It has nothing to do with mucus or inflammation. And so at the end of the day, all of this is treating yourself like a lab rat. I'm going to try this. If it does work, great. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Next. Because no matter what, my goal is to slow my breathing down to where I can sleep all night, not have to get up to use the bathroom, clench and grind, or snore.
That's awesome. We got the intake strips, and you can't help but breathe through your nose using them. And actually, when I was at the gym last, I saw another guy, and he's working out with it. I'm like, that is so smart.
Better oxygen delivery. Yeah. And there's so much to it too, right? Like people don't realize when they sleep at night, their mouth pops open. And there's two different types. Their mouth pops open because they have poor muscle strength in their face, or their mouth pops open because they have to breathe through their mouth because their nose is occluded. And so I think it's really important to know the difference between those two, because everybody's like, oh, lip taping, that's like a fad. Well, yeah, but it's a tool. Because in the meantime, I finally figured out what was happening why I was waking up tired. It's because I couldn't breathe at night. So I'm gonna do whatever I can, but it's not a quick fix, right? It's a lifestyle change. It's all behavior modification. And so I use lip tape. There's tons of them out there. There's ones that go around your lips, ones that go on your lips, ones that are super sticky, ones that aren't. You got to find one that your body will let you wear at night. It takes like 2 weeks. Just make sure you have nasal patency. If you can put a business card between your lips and breathe for 3 to 5 minutes without issue, then you can lip tape. You have just verified you have nasal patency. A lot of people, when they lay down, they'll have a little bit more inflammation and congestion. That's because they don't have gravity on their side. And those are the people that are humming in the shower. They're blowing their nose. They're using nasal sprays. They're putting those dilators in. They're getting everything they can to open up the nose until at one point you don't have to rely on any of that anymore. Once you've totally habituated nasal breathing, it works like a charm for the majority of people. There's always, exceptions to the rule, but yeah, so lip tape is really great. I mean, honestly, had I not used lip tape, I don't think I would have believed in any of this. I don't think that I would have believed that how I was breathing was impacting my quality of health or my sleep. But the minute I started breathing through my nose all night, and I would wake up without my clenching and grinding, and I was snoring way worse. If you guys try it, you're like, oh my God, it's because we're still over breathing. So we're pulling a bunch of air in. And remember, if you snore, you guys, what does it take to snore? You have to breathe hard and fast. If I'm breathing slow and low, I can't snore. Like I have to do that. And that's what your body has to train not to do, is the hard and fast, shallow breathing. But yeah, it was life-changing. I started dreaming again. I wasn't getting up as much. I didn't toss and turn. And eventually, once my tongue got strong enough to stay suctioned to the roof of my mouth, I could sleep on my back again. Like, we live in a world where people think it's acceptable to be like, oh, you snore? No big deal. Just lay on your side. I'm like, okay, but I should be able to rotate to my back. Like, that's a neutral position for my spine. Why can't I stay there at least a little bit and not suffocate? So yeah, that was one of my goals, was to stop snoring, to sleep on my back, and to wake up refreshed. And they weren't unachievable. They just took a little bit of time.
Do you recommend sleeping on your back, or just being able to? I mean, because I had a dentist tell me that it is best to sleep on your side.
It is best for your airway to sleep on your side.
Okay.
Left side for digestion, right side for the liver, I believe. But you should be able to sleep on your back. I think it is the most neutral position for your spine. And I mean, think about it too. Like, if I'm on my back, I'm not putting pressure on my lungs. So I'm not compressing them. I'm not squishing any of my organs or limiting blood flow, because I'm on my neutral position. I feel that human beings are supposed to be side and back sleepers. And the fact that our upper airway health is so crappy that we can't even stay on our back for a couple of minutes just to get a little bit of that healing. It shows us that we have work to do. But yes, so I guess to answer your question, I believe you should be able to get on your back and sleep. I don't feel like you should suffocate when you're back there. But I also know that if your tongue isn't staying up while you're sleeping and your lips aren't closed and you're not breathing slow and silently through your nose, you need to stay on your side, because that's the best way for your airway to stay open. Otherwise, your tongue will choke you.
Yeah, and isn't that what happens in sleep apnea? Is their jaw falls back and then it blocks their airway?
Yep.
Interesting.
Because of an atrophied system. The upper airway muscles are so weak, they can't maintain proper posture during sleep, especially when you get to REM. And everybody's like, well, I don't get it. Like, I can push my tongue up there. I'm like, it's not about pushing, you guys. It's about developing these muscles and these swallowing patterns so that it stays suctioned. The only way the tongue can rest, there's 8 muscles in there, is when it's suctioned to the roof of your mouth. Otherwise, you're activating it. And so that suction is what helps to keep that soft palate up and out of the airway, so that your oral, the nasopharynx and the airway behind the tongue stays open and doesn't have body parts falling into it.
That's fascinating. Well, it's interesting because obviously breathing, we we can't live without it, right? But it's fascinating because in theater courses, when I was in college, they teach you breathing exercises to affect your mood and to give
Oh
you
yeah. Well,
anxiety or stress, or you're supposed to act scared, and there's breathing techniques to put you in that state of fight or flight mode.
oh my gosh. Okay, Kimmy, I think about PTSD all the time. There's not a lot of people connecting the dots, but I'm a veteran of war, right? I went over there in the desert, didn't know if I was going to come home or not. And I remember rapid breathing when I was super scared, okay? And then if I come home and I think about those scary times, guess what happens to my breath? I start rapid breathing again. My brain does not know that I'm not in that situation when I'm reliving it in my memory. And so there's a huge connection there between, changing your breathing pattern and changing like clinical diagnoses for a lot of us.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how many people are adrenaline dominants? They have high cortisol levels. They're probably not breathing from their nose.
Nope. And they're only engaging their upper chest. They're not, fully engaging their diaphragm and getting the oxygen into all the bronchi. Like there's so much to it. And I really like, if you guys really want to dig into the actual breathing part of it and like chemoreceptors and all the different like nerdy stuff, Patrick McCowan, he's the best. He's in Ireland, but he's done so much just to help me learn the biomechanics of breathing so that, I don't have to worry about, oh, it's just changing my breathing. Like I have to have the willpower. No, I know why I need to change it. So it was a lot easier to change.
Well, yeah, this can extend years on your life. Because didn't you say the sleep apnea can cut like 7 years off of your life?
It can, because you're suffocating every night and you're depriving your heart. So it's crazy. Like if you stop breathing while you sleep, it creates suction around your heart. And so not only are you depriving your brain of oxygen, and then you think about the different phases of sleep, right? We look at like dementia and Alzheimer's, right? Beta amyloid buildup in the brain. I wonder why that is. Why isn't the brain cleaning itself? What's wrong with the lymphatic system? Could it be a breathing issue?
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like you can connect all these dots when you start to really peel that onion. It's wild.
That's incredible.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, we got to have you on again
Yeah.
and talk about all this because, I mean, these are techniques that people can do for free, or if they need the devices to help them practice breathing. I noticed for us that having the Replenish straw, which we're trying to bring in at wholesale, for this retail at the store, but the intake, the bridge, I mean, I slept with that on a couple of nights, and you can't help but nasal breathe with that on. I mean, it just forces you. And then I think there's the froggy mouth device.
Yep, that's the swallowing pattern. A lot of people don't realize that the reason the back of their tongue is weak is because they're not swallowing the right way. And so you could do all the exercises, by all the tools to get your tongue super strong, right? But if you're not swallowing properly, it still won't stay suctioned up there while you sleep. So it's really important, like, why is our tongue weak? Yes, we're not chewing optimally, but we swallow up to 2,000 times a day, just saliva. So there's a really good chance I'm doing it wrong and it's causing my muscles to atrophy.
Well, yeah, and it goes back to diet and lifestyle. Everybody's in a rush society. They're going fast food. They're not eating nutritious foods, and they're not chewing their foods. Like we should be sitting down and chewing 23 times at least and create that mush ourselves, not eating mush.
Yeah, and that's a brain, a lot of this is, we talked about behavior modification, right? So we're just trying to hack the brain. So think about this, eat with chopsticks. If you're, some cultures, they eat with their fingers, so they get less food transferred into the mouth. So if you have less food itself coming in, you're more likely to chew longer and then get away from this. I got to eat it while it's hot. Like, what if I just got to eat while it's room temperature or, just a little warm? Like we have to switch some of the ways that we were taught to eat so that we can slow down the food chewing and we can like pay attention to it and have better, because the teeth are the only mechanical digestion you get. If you don't chew up that food properly, which a lot of people don't because their tongue is weak and it's too much work. If you have a strong tongue, chewing a lot is not a big deal. If you have a weak tongue, chewing a lot is work and it's not fun. And you put food down partially chewed. And then your poor stomach, it's got chemical digestion, but like it's got these giant chunks and it's like, oh, of course I'm going to have issues with, gut. It's because I didn't mechanically digest my food before I sent it down to absorb the nutrients and give the time for the body and the brain to understand what's coming in order to get the digestive enzymes going so you can actually absorb all the nutrients.
Well, it's funny because we have an organic juice and smoothie bar at our store. And I've told numerous amount of customers, like, you're supposed to chew your juices. Not just drink them really fast. You're supposed to chew them.
Yes.
People don't understand that.
It's just a small little change that makes a huge impact. You're telling your brain food is coming down instead of going straight in with these, empty calories.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any questions, Michael?
No, I'm just enjoying all the new stuff here.
As you can tell, I have spent almost a decade of my life hyper-focused on this particular subject. Not only because it's such an undereducated field. Like, there's very few people that are loud as I am talking about snoring isn't normal. It's a sign you can't get air in and out of your body. It's wrecking your sleep. It's not just sound. But I had to fix myself. Like, I went to a course in Missoula, and it was like 7 hours, and they were teaching us all these different different appliances for sleep appliances, right? Like, you can do this plastic in this way or this one, or use this company. But I was like, 7 hours later, they never told me why people can't breathe at night. Like, you just kept telling me that this is a great alternative to a CPAP. But I'm like, how about if I'm going to offer somebody plastic to sleep in, I tell them what they can do to not have to rely on that to sleep and breathe. And who knows? I'm sure the science is somewhere. What if we have to rely on a CPAP for so long that our brain starts to turn into that central sleep apnea? Well, it's like, why fire these signals? Like, they got a machine for that. Like, I think about that stuff all the time. Like, wouldn't it just be so much easier to treat the root cause? Like, how did it get this bad? So I can do everything in my power to wake up refreshed and not clench and grind my teeth. You guys will notice your front teeth starting to get flat or thin. That's because your body will always sacrifice your teeth for the next breath. Again, that's the most important thing, is if you can't breathe, nothing else matters. And I think it's just really doing yourself a service. And here's a disclaimer, you guys. You're going to listen to this or watch this, and you're going to think, oh, you know what? My so-and-so snores. My so-and-so is apnea. Maybe they should try the straw. My blah, blah, blah. It's got to be you. This is a you job. Like, if you try to press this on someone else, you a lot of times will get pushback because they're like, I'm fine. I sleep fine. Just leave me alone. And it's almost like telling an addict to stop doing their thing. It's an inside job. So it's one thing to lead them to the education, people like me that are out here, books that I've written, courses that I offer. But it's another thing to be like, okay, they have to be ready to change, because you have to change, because nothing changes if nothing changes. Like, if I want to change the way I breathe at night, it is one of the hardest things I will ever do.
Well, I'm interested in bringing in your book if you sell them. And then what's the name of it? And then I'll let Michael.
So it's titled Breathe Better While You Sleep. It's Amazon and Kindle, and it's a guide. And I did it in order of priority, which is so nice, because I have all the books, right? Anything that's Airway Health, I bought it because I was hungry for the knowledge. Like, I wanted it, but most people just talk about the problems. They don't talk about the solutions. So I was like, okay, well, I just gonna have to write it. If it worked for me, it could work for other people. But it's, basically, how do we open up your nose? How do we get your mouth to work right? How do we, work on sleep hygiene and circadian rhythms and reduce inflammation and work on your collagen matrix so that the smooth muscle around your upper airway can get tight again, so that it's easy for everything to stay open at night. That, and then I have Airway Coach. It's a website where we offer programs and workbooks and video guides on, like, people are like, I don't want to learn how this happened. I just tell me what to do. And some people are great reading the rules or the protocols, but other people do better at watching it, like, show me. So we're trying to find people where they're at and then give them the education that, we know they don't have a ton of time to do this. But, like, I'm going to tell you exactly, like, and I did that in the book.
Sorry to cut you short, but we're out of time. So we'll have to have you back on, and thank you so much for joining us.
You're listening to the Let's Stay Healthy radio show, sponsored and brought to you by Montana Harvest Natural Food Store in Billings, Montana.